If there's one thing that's clear, it's you guys are not happy. We're going to address it all right here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Tuesday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Lowell, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Thank you for all of our everydayers who check out the show every single day. Thank you for making us your first listen. It is the Michigan Mailbag. We had 85 submissions today. We are not getting to 85. I was a little bit more selective. There's a lot of people who are just complaining, and I feel that. I understand that. There's people that had things that were just unhelpful. And so we kind of just went with the people we know for the most part. That's the benefit of asking every single week, and a few that aren't your typical. So segment one are our leaders and best, then Victor's Valiant, then Blue Crew, as we normally do. So let's, without any further delay, let's dig right into the leaders and best, starting with James Crudup at James Crudup 6. Is it just me, or does it feel like there's a lack of press man? Feels like receivers are consistently running free and open, and the game plan is just blitz and pray it gets home. Number one, I don't think that was the case. I mean, granted, not really much press man, but it didn't necessarily feel like the receivers were necessarily running free against USC. If you're looking at the whole season, yeah, I can see that they tend to play a heck of a lot more zone. That in part that's due to just kind of what college football has become. Zone tends to be. Remember a couple of years ago, all Don Brown played was a press man, and everyone was very upset about that and wanted more zone, and they couldn't play zone. And I think that right now you have the personnel more so to play zone than press man, and that will generally work unless teams screen you to death, which is kind of what happened from USC. Remember, USC didn't really have much of a vertical game. They had a couple vertical passes, but for the most part, it was underneath stuff. It was the screen game, that type of stuff. Continued. Is it just me? Part two. Is the work jacket thing a Harbaugh type corny, funny thing? Yes, he has smash, but it also feels like he doesn't know who he is yet as a head coach. Kind of feels like a different type of Herbert to Tress transition from Harbaugh to Moore. Okay. So first off, the work jacket. I've seen a lot. First, my friend Josiah, who we included in the leaders and best because I wanted to. First off, the work jacket thing is a holdover from the Jim Harbaugh thing. Jim Harbaugh has had that since 2015. That this is not new. It's for anyone complaining. Now, if you are upset essentially that Sherrone's not being his own man and is trying to be Jim Harbaugh and it's not working, I think that's a fair assessment. I think that there's way too many like Harbaugh isms that exist instead of Sherrone just kind of doing his own thing. That's been something that I've thought for some time. I still think he's his own man. I think he's very different. But yes, he has carried over a lot of like traditions from Jim Harbaugh. And that is one of them. But for all the people complaining and saying like, oh, it's corny. This is, he's doing stupid, crazy stuff. This was a Jim Harbaugh carryover. Jim Harbaugh had the work shirts. The work jackets, all of that stuff that started in 2015. I can't find it. I was trying to find it because it's funny because we addressed this back when Justin Spiro did use the Michigan staffer that wasn't Connor Stallions and acted like, oh, look, he's trying to be, Connor Stallions is there. And, he's wearing the blue collar shirt in order to do this, and this. And it's like, no, I have pictures of the guys in the blue collar shirts from back in 2015. Couldn't find it. I know I very specifically have a picture in the tunnel of Kyle Kalis and Eric Magnuson walking in with cups of coffee in the blue collar shirts. So that's not a new thing. It's a thing that's existed for some time. And Sherrone calling attention to it. Listen, it's a metaphor, not necessarily a very subtle one, but he's not wrong. Like, they have to go back to work. These are things that they've had for a long time, having these blue collar shirts and work jackets and all of that stuff. I mean, this is what Michigan had been predicated on. You had the the whole association with Wolverine Boot Company and going to work and everything with my guy Scott Schessel. So it's the identity of the team, even if it didn't look good in this particular game. So there's that. Josh Barr at Jadicky Moore is trending to be more like Hoke than Harbaugh right now. Is his seat getting warm yet from the inside the building, or is everything rosy there? I mean, so here's where I'm at. And I was talking to Jake Budd about this yesterday. What's happening right now, I understand they lost at Oklahoma and they didn't look super competitive, but the game was within reach for most of the game. Kind of the same thing in this game. It didn't feel like it was competitive, but Michigan was kind of right there for 2/3 of the game. And then eventually some mistakes and such allowed USC to kind of pull away. I think that, number one, to act like this is a hot seat situation is an overreaction. And I think a big part of the overreaction comes because of what happened at Penn State. And you look at and you say, James Franklin fired midseason. Cool. But that wasn't just this season. It was multiple seasons of the same thing. And then this season was worse for James Franklin because he lost to what were considered to be the two worst teams in the conference. Michigan just lost to, at worst, two middling teams, one in the conference and one outside. That's at worst. We don't know what USC is. Yes, it lost at Illinois. And but it also, that's it. Oklahoma just had its first loss with a very injured John Mateer against Texas. And it feels like a lot of this backlash right now is an overreaction. And it does, yes, combine more than 1 year because it's last year and this year. But I want to add in the other thing, which is, yeah, I thought maybe personally that Michigan may have figured out how to overcome the West Coast thing. But when was the last time Michigan won on the West Coast? The 2023 Rose Bowl. When was the last time before that Michigan won on the West Coast? You can sit there and Jeopardy music in your head for a while. And I can't tell you off the top of my head. It's been a long time. Now, college football's changed. Indiana just went and won at Oregon. Yada, yada, yada. But we're talking about Michigan. And yes, the expectation should be that they should win on the West Coast. But it's like I was talking to Jake about. It's like I said on the yesterday's show, on the Bleacher Report thing I also did. This is for all intents and purposes, kind of a young team. Though it is one of the more experienced teams in the country in terms of coming in with returning production, 29th in the country. But it is still a relatively inexperienced team. And, especially quarterback, wide receiver, a little bit on the offensive line with Andrew Sprague. And Greg Crippen's he hasn't even had a full year yet, or he's had about exactly a full year. So, and, across the defense, guys who are starting for the first time. So you have to take all of that and recognize all of that. Whereas you look at Indiana, it's like, oh man, they went and did that. Well, they had an extremely experienced team, number one. And it's not a full excuse. I'm just saying you take all of these things together and, West Coast trip, younger team, freshman quarterback. That's part of it. But ultimately, what I said the other day is still holds. If they tackle at the point of attack, we're talking about an entirely different game. And that is something that we generally have not seen Michigan struggle at. Spencer Whitmore, at Spencer Whitmore. Do we panic? Do we cry? Do we protest? I'm sad. You can do whatever you want. I'll say this. I'm clearly not panicking or crying or protesting. Now, I will say this. If Michigan looks completely incapable of handling Washington, then I will be there with you. But when you take one game, and I understand you're going to look at Oklahoma, I kind of give that a little bit of a reprieve. A team back against its wall. It's been very good, extremely good defense. You had, first road trip, night game, freshman quarterback, and you kind of pull out of the refrigerator, the brown bag that says dead dove, do not eat, open it up and say, well, I guess I don't know what I expected. And I think it's the same thing for this. Like, should Michigan have won one of the two? I think that they really needed to, but if they go and beat Washington, then it's clear sailing to the Ohio State game. And for anyone who says, well, but they're not going to be at Ohio State, were you fully confident Michigan was going to be at Ohio State at any point before they did it? Probably not. And if they are able to get to the Ohio State game with no more losses on the schedule, then they'll be in contention to be in the college football playoff. Finishing us out in segment 1, my guy Josiah at third underscore blue. What happens if we win out? Cade reference. Like, what happens if we win out, boys? But seriously, what does winning out mean for the program in terms of playoff picture and job security of Sherrone Moore? I mean, listen, unless things fall significantly apart, which I know a lot of you feel like it has, I do not believe that is the case. I think that he's got some job security. I don't think that Michigan is sitting here being like, we got to pull the trigger, get rid of him. Because number one, who else are you going to get? And I know there's people out there saying Kurt Cignetti, John Harbaugh. Listen, those two things aren't happening. They're just not. I just want to be real with you. They're not happening. And once you start going down this road of like, we got to change things over, then you open up the transfer portal. You start you start flirting with the idea of being Florida or Auburn. And you don't want to be there either, because then it's a perpetual cycle of having guys for 2, 3, 4 years. And then you move on to the next guy and he doesn't do it and you don't have the infrastructure. So I think a little patience is warranted here. All right. We've got so much more to get to. Let's get to it here in just a moment. But before we do, the holidays are going to be here before you know it, which is exciting. But getting your home ready for guests and collaborations can feel, or celebrations, could be collaborations, can feel like a lot. Maybe you maybe your serveware needs a refresh, or the guest room could use new bedding. Wayfair has everything you need to get your home holiday ready, from Christmas trees and wreaths to bedding, cookware, and outdoor inflatables. It's your one-stop shop for every room in the house. Wayfair makes it easy to personalize your home for the holidays, and with a huge selection for every style and budget, and with free and easy delivery, even on the big stuff, really helps. I'll tell you what, you can get everything you need without the hassle of huge delivery fees. I love how easy it was to find pieces that fit my style and budget. Everything was in one place and checkout was a breeze. The delivery is fast and free, which was a lifesaver during a busy time of year. Now, instead of stressing about getting the house ready, you can actually enjoy the holidays with friends and family. So get organized, get refreshed, and ready for the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's Wayfair, WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. All right, we're going to continue on momentarily, but the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 that you can play with in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built same game parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during the games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something extra riding in on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, Wayfair makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com. Did I say Wayfair? FanDuel. FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, I forgot to put the time code on my screen. Thankfully, I have it on the audio. Hopefully we can get through everyone that I selected, but no promises, no guarantees. This will be a 30-minute show, basically, as it is. So let's, without further ado, get to the Victor's Valiant. Great Bambino X at Colossus O'Clout X. Football still comes down to blocking and tackling. Sounds simple, but it really isn't. Can they fix it for Washington? Feels like a must-win game now. Do you agree? I fully agree. It is a must-win game. They absolutely have to. They have no more room for error. And you go down to 4-3. It feels a lot like last year. And I understand you lost some guys on defense that made that special, but the defense wasn't exactly playing great all the time. I mean, even then, holding USC to 31. I mean, it should have been 24-ish. They obviously let their ineligible player run for a touchdown late in the game, which is interesting that they were only fined $5,000 for having a player who was ineligible for the game. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that running back was listed as out on the Big Ten report, and they put him in anyway. So ineligible, fined $5,000. But yes, can they fix the blocking and tackling? Yes, because we've seen it most of the year, right? We've seen it. Has it been as exemplary as the 3-year run? No, I'd say it's kind of a little bit more like 2019 or 2017. Well, not quite 2017, but more like 2019. in its level where it's like, it's okay. It's above average, the blocking and the tackling. But not against USC. It wasn't. It was 2017 level early season. So, but again, we've seen it. So to me, that's a lapse. And yes, they've had momentary lapses. This was a full game lapse. Haven't seen anything like this, right? Except for maybe the TCU game. So, yes, I do think it's a must win. Yes, I do think they can fix it. K-Lob 711. I was at the USC game with my son. As you stated in your recap podcast, Michigan was totally out physicaled in their on the offensive and defensive lines. I don't know if you correct that in a week or two of practice. I see them going 3-3 down the stretch. Your thoughts? God bless. I mean, I think it's fully possible they could, right? They could lose to Washington, Maryland, and Ohio State. I think those are really the only danger games. I think they'll handle Michigan. I mean, I know it's a rivalry game. They are a disaster. It would take they come from out of nowhere and play a perfect game up front on both sides. Michigan, we've seen Michigan destroy teams that aren't good up front so far this year. So, yeah, I don't think that, I mean, I could end up being wrong, but like them, Purdue and Northwestern, who I know Northwestern just beat Penn State, but I still would put that in as not an automatic win, but pretty close. But no, I don't think they're going to go 3-3 down the stretch. I mean, it's possible. I don't think it's plausible. Again, they were out physical. We haven't seen them out physical like this in a long time. We've seen some of the really good teams out physical against Georgia in 2021. Not really against TCU, but I mean, TCU still kind of beat them on the line of scrimmage throughout a lot of the game. And hence the lack of inability to run in that game for most of it. I do think that they can fix it because we've seen it work. It had been ascending. And then there was a little lapse in the first half against Wisconsin and they got better again. And they were blocking and tackling and doing all the stuff that we wanted to see. And then against USC, it just didn't work. Again, I caution against overreaction to one game because it really has just been one game. It was bad. I'm not going to say it wasn't bad, but it was still one game. Coach Dave at Big Coup 82. If Michigan gets boat raced again this weekend, will we actually pull a Penn State? No, that's not happening. I don't know why everyone's got in their head that it's happening. That just because Penn State did it. It was over a decade of James Franklin not winning the big games when he could win the little games. And then he started losing the little games. So that it was clear he lost the team and Penn State had enough. Wolverine Libertatis, should Afobe get the start after El Hadi didn't play well and hasn't really played great at all this season? I'd have to look at I want to look and see because I was kind of surprised. Now, we don't necessarily go fully off of the PFF, but it's Giovanni El Hadi actually had been rated as the best offensive lineman for Michigan in his game and a half, according to PFF. So I just want to see what they have him for the last game. Yeah, it was bad against USC. It's not a surprise. But I mean, I'd been kind of saying that I wanted Afobe to begin with as the guy. I've been saying that in the lead up. So that's personally me. I love Gio, but I think you got to roll with the guys that were helping you ascend. Carter Carlin, is their internal pressure yet from the administration, donors, and alumni and Coach Moore if he keeps losing? I mean, if he loses out, then I would imagine so. But again, I don't think that they're overreacting to one game. Pistons Famo, what do you need to see from the coaching staff the rest of the season to feel confident going into next year that Sherrone is a guy? I think that just getting, number one, having the resolve and getting back to winning, being more physical at the point of attack. I think that I think it's a mismatch, Michigan's defensive and offensive fronts versus Washington, but Washington has the skill players, the skill player advantage. So I think, though, being physically imposing on a Washington team that I think is decent despite being somewhat undersized, but should be overmatched, I think is going to I think that'll be telling. But I think the big thing is just rebounding and ascending. Last year was rebound and ascend. So I think you need to see that again. Continuing. Also, do you think Bryce can punt farther than 28 yards with those thighs? I at this point, I would try Marlon Klein because it's just not going great, right? So they got to figure out something as far as that's concerned, because it's Hudson Hollenbeck does really well in practice. They say he looks great in warmups, kicking 50-yarders, and then he gets into games and just can't kick at all. It's the yips. Kind of reminds me, who was it? Will Hart that had that for a bit. It's kind of the yips. Wolverine Warrior at Wolverine Champ 1. Do you think accountability is coming in the offseason? I'm for more staying one more year due to recruiting and being a player's coach, but we need strong leadership from the OL, wide receiver, and special teams coaches. Honestly thinking DC2 after USC, just getting out schemed in areas. Thoughts on more, and he asked thoughts on Moore's blue collar jacket. I mean, I already gave that part. I mean, I do think that there will be accountability. I mean, Moore made the change last year. And yes, I do think he'll get one more year unless he just loses the team. You know, if he loses 4 games down the stretch, I think he's, you know, then there might be a tougher conversation. But you got to consider, are you willing to lose the young players in order to bring in someone that may or may not help you get better? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, he had the willingness and ability to get rid of Kirk Campbell, right? Pulled the trigger very quickly. Was it 2 days after the Ohio State game? So yeah, I do think that there would be accountability, and there are multiple coaches that I feel aren't necessarily pulling their weight. And I think you can probably guess who those are. Clark at Blue for Life 8. Does Michigan have any other options at punter? They do. I can't remember the name of the guy they brought in. Now, obviously they had really were riding in the Luke Bauer basket there for the offseason, only for him to retire from the sport entirely sometime mid to late summer. So that kind of left them a little high and dry there. They brought in someone right before the season. I can't remember who. And obviously they don't feel good about him because he's not in. Perry Mitchell at Perry Mitchell 08. Didn't you already have another one? Did I already get to you? I thought I did. Maybe not. I don't know why I thought I read one of yours earlier. How many double-digit losses before we should be concerned about the coaching staff's inability to get the players ready for their second-tier good, not great teams? No, here's the thing. Again, we don't know if these are good, not great teams. We don't know. Right now, college football, there's a ton of parity. And, you know, USC fans, I'm sure, were feeling the exact same way that you are right now when they lost to Illinois. Now, I understand they took the lead late. Illinois won on a walk-off, but they were getting absolutely destroyed. So we don't know if they're good or not great teams. We'll know at the end of the season. That's where the preseason ideas and like even shows like mine can be difficult, because we can sit there and say, hey, this is what it is. And here's what the schedule looks like. This is an easy schedule. I didn't have USC going 5-1, I don't believe. Maybe I did, because I mean, they didn't play any really tough teams early. But I mean, you know, Oklahoma, I was out here saying I don't think Oklahoma's that good. Well, they've beaten every team except for Texas, and that game almost always seems to go to the team that is the underdog in at least the minds of the people. Maybe not Vegas underdog, but you know, a lot of times when Texas rolls into that game and you're like, there's no way Oklahoma beats them, they do, and vice versa. And that's kind of what that was. Jerron Snavely, why do you think we rotate so much on defense to keep guys fresh? And it should pay off generally. I think it's a good strategy. Because instead of having a bunch of super tired guys that get gashed, you know, especially against physical teams, these are guys that are raring to go, right? The person who's run 1 mile is a lot less tired than someone who's run 3 generally, you know? I know it's possible to keep people fresh, he continues, but it could lead to inconsistency down to down. This team needs to find what works and stick to it. And I wonder if the rotation is a reason for this. Thoughts? No, because it was even the starters, the guys like Ernest Hausman didn't play good. Jimmy Roller, I don't think played good. Thought the front was mostly okay, like in terms of the defensive tackles, but you know, they didn't get a lot of pressure even when they collapsed the pocket. The edges were outrunning the play quite often. So there was a lot of stuff like that. Jacob Chavaria at Chavaria. I understand Sherrone is safe for at least 1 to 2 years, but where would you rank Michigan's head coaching job? What jobs are more attractive than Michigan, if any? I mean, there's a lot. Number one, at the first sign of trouble, the coach has to deal with this. I mean, maybe the second sign of trouble. Having the feeling of absolute doom and consternation. NIL's gotten on track thanks to Jared Wangler, Champion Circle, Nate Forbes, obviously the Larry Ellison connection for Bryce, as well as some of the other collectives. I don't want to leave them out. But I think Michigan's probably still top 10, but probably near the bottom of top 10. Has the resources, has the tradition, has the stadium, has the players, has the ability to recruit nationwide. But I think there's some others, Texas, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, maybe that's about it. I mean, you could throw in Oklahoma, probably in that list. Some of the other blue bloods, I think, are probably just slightly more attractive. Slightly. Who would you want to take Franklin's job if you were a Penn State fan? Probably Matt Rule. But I could, and that's the problem, man. There's not Matt Rule, Curt Cignetti. They're probably not getting Curt Cignetti, of course. Matt Rule would be probably the best option for them. I don't know who else would be on my short list other than Matt Rule and Curt Cignetti. That's all I got there. The Rican Raider, Hamstan87, finishing us out in segment 2. How do you feel about a 3-year rule for coaches? This is what I've been telling people about Sherrone. He should get 3 years and an opportunity for staff changes and his own recruiting class that's coming here before we even consider a head coaching change. I'm fully in agreement with that. That's how I feel about the NFL. College, sometimes I feel like you need 4. But generally, and a lot of people will make the argument that, hey, Rich Rod just needed a defensive coordinator and he shouldn't have been gone after 3 years. But and then Hoke, I think that with that, maybe Hoke had a lot of success because he had Rich Rod's players he recruited, was able to run a similar offensive system for a year. And then he brought in Greg Madison to coordinate the defense and suddenly, hey, look, things are fixed. So, 3, maybe 4, again, this isn't the NFL. You don't have all teams at kind of an even plane generally. And once you start, especially transfer portal and unfettered free agency, remember, guys can go anywhere at any time now, pretty much. You can find yourself in a really bad position if you start way worse. If you think it can't be worse, it can be significantly worse. Think about how things were for Michigan at the end of Brady Hoke or, throughout Rich Rod. It can be that or worse. How do you think Auburn feels? Auburn, not good. Florida, not good. So there's that. All right, we're going to continue on. We're going to do so here in just a moment. But before we do, college football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than a game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. It's why I use GameTime. The app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. The app makes it super simple. You can even see exactly what you're going to be looking at with the seat view. It's incredible. I love zone deals too. You pick the section, GameTime picks the seats, and you save big. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and easier, less stressful than any other way to buy tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app. Create an account rather. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, use the promo code GameTime. Promo code LOCKEDON. I've got it pop up on my computer. That was fun. Promo code LOCKEDONCollege on GameTime for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download GameTime today. All right, we're going long here because everything else is going long. It's just taking forever here. So we stopped and restarted the camera. We're going to the Blue Crew, and this we'll get to everyone I put in here, which is not the full rest of the 85. But let's start with one who is normally up in the section above, which is BW. At BW 2623, can Michigan beat Washington without Haynes? I think so. I think Jordan Marshall, he just hasn't really had the opportunity because Haynes has been so good. Jordan Marshall looks really good against USC. Problem is they were down. They couldn't just sit and run the ball. He might have had more opportunities to hit that home run. But I mean, he averaged 4.9 yards a carry. He looked very good. He looked like whenever he got the ball, he was just slicing through that front and getting it, 5, 6, 7, 8 yards at any given point. So yeah, I think they can. It's and we'll see if Haynes plays. I mean, Sherrone made it sound kind of like he's questionable for the game. We'll see how that goes. Nunya at S Nunya 1003. Why are so many fans trigger happy and wanting to fire Sherrone Moore? They're starting a true freshman quarterback. 9-3 was always a realistic expectation for this season. Is it wrong that I look at this as a 3-year build with Bryce to a national championship level team? He includes the 2027 schedule. And I mean, it's got some massive challenges. Let's not act like it doesn't. But that schedule, the non-conference in order is Buffalo, at Texas, then Eastern. And then the Big Ten schedule, which we don't know the dates and all that, is at Indiana, at Iowa, hosting Illinois, hosting Ohio State, Oregon, Rutgers, at Michigan State, at Penn State, at UCLA. I mean, that's a brutal schedule, to be honest, if you look at it by today's standards, which 2 years from now, Texas could be bad. 2 years from now, Indiana could be bad. You just don't know, right? 2 years from now, Michigan State could be incredible. UCLA could be incredible. We don't know. But yes, I think that that's the case. And yes, you don't want to waste Bryce. I don't think he will. But they've got a plan. They still have a lot to get to that point. And transfer portal makes that possible. You got people willing to spend. I think that when you have, again, like part of the changing coaches is the coordinators. And I understand Wink had a bad game. Sometimes guys have bad games, right? We've seen it every year, even from the top teams. Sometimes you just are overmatched. And I mean, I don't think that technically Michigan was overmatched. They were in one game. I don't know if that would go the same way if they played at Michigan, or, if they played 10 times, who knows how that goes. But like Michigan was just very bad at things that it's normally good at, is kind of a lot of what I say. So we'll see. Snap Index of Cash and Checks asked, I think fans forget the years leading up to 21 through 23. I think fans forget how bad it got. I also think that if fans want better offense, open up their checkbook and start getting wide receivers like Smith, Moore, and Tate in the building, along with guys on both lines of scrimmage. I agree. And I think they've got the pieces on the lines, current and future, whether it's the guys that are young that are there, guys that are coming in. But I think development on the offensive line needs to be better. It just does. And on the offensive line in particular, defensive line, I'm not as concerned, but, I think they've got the pieces there. But yes, they need wide receivers. They need a bunch of other pieces that they don't currently have. Wisco Wolverine at Boogie Night 23. I have quite a few. First, what is Moore going to do with the O-line? They got dominated by SC. I mean, he's got in my eyes, he's probably got a, I'm not in the business for calling anyone's jobs, but like Juan Castillo, who they brought in, maybe needs to be even more of a focal point than he was before. Let me put it that way. Second, how come they don't let Bryce run? Well, if you, number one, if you listened or watched the Connor episode last week, he said the Michigan's worst idea they could have is to have a bunch of designed runs for Bryce. That their defense, remember, Danton Lynn is a Wink Martindale acolyte, coached under Wink at the Baltimore Ravens, much like Jesse Minter and Mike McDonald. And as he said, like the style of defense they play, you don't want Bryce to run in this game. So that's part of it. And part of it is it's part of the RPO game. And I didn't see a lot of opportunities for Bryce to run in this game as it was. I mean, when he did run the one time, it went really well. And yeah, there's that. Third, why is the interior getting pushed around? Bad technique, fundamentals, more than that, I'm not going to say. And fourth, why are there so many penalties? That was the weird thing, because it didn't really feel like Michigan was doing a lot to warrant the penalties, where on the other side of the ball, it felt like USC was getting a very friendly whistle, or lack of a whistle. I can't really tell you there. Michigan is one of the worst penalized. It's the worst team when it comes to drawing penalties. Make that make sense, because I see a penalty almost every play. Bacchus duo, again, someone who's normally up in the Victor's Valiant, but I had to throw down here due to the general amount of people. I think everyone expected the offense to have freshman moments. However, the D gave up 200 plus yards rushing, putting the game out of reach. Seems like we have the talent. So what is missing? I mean, honestly, just execution in the game last week. Like the last time they gave up 200 yards rushing was TCU in the Fiesta Bowl. Last time before that was Michigan State in 2021. And then the last time before that was Penn State, Wisconsin in 2020, and probably more. So again, why am I not freaking out about any of this? Why am I not going scorched earth? Because some of the things that happened in this game generally do not happen for this defense, even against good rushing attacks, good offenses, all of that stuff. Like a lot of this stuff was anomalous. So that's why I'm like, I understand it looked bad, but a lot of the things that were problems in this game were anomalous. That's why I said earlier, if this was a situation where it was like they're, like they just, Bryce keeps hitting guys in the hands. They kept dropping balls, and that's why they lost the game. Then it would be a little bit different, but that's not what happened, right? Like there were 0 drops in this game. So, GR81 at BK Wolverine. Why the gaping discrepancies in offensive production between when Moore is and isn't on the sidelines? Well, number one, the level of competition. That's a big one, right? And here I'm gonna pull this up just to be able to share here. So total offense. Now, obviously the last game did not. That was the second worst they've done offensively, but 616 yards against Central Michigan, 391 yards against Nebraska. Sherrone was on the sidelines for New Mexico, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, and USC. Their worst output came against Oklahoma with 288 yards. Their second worst output came this last week with 316 yards. And then they had 445 yards against Wisconsin. The second best yards per carry, or not yards per carry, yards per play for the season came against Wisconsin. The one before that was New Mexico. So this was the second worst that they had, but still 207 yards passing. That's a significant improvement on the 105 against Nebraska or the 142 against Oklahoma. So it's not what you think it is all I have to say there. Conman 34, in or out, Coach Moore, elaborate your side, please. I need someone who knows what they're talking about to say something. Thanks. God bless. I mean, I think I've kind of done that. I mean, in for now, right? Like he can prove me wrong down the stretch. And, everyone can be like, oh, see, we were right if he loses the team and they don't rebound and they don't, do whatever. But number one, I think that he's working with what he's got, which isn't as good as what Michigan had in 21, 22, and 23. I think he's doing so in an era of college football that's different than what was in that time frame. Completely different, weirdly. And I think that he couldn't be, he wasn't the one out there making tackles or missing them, rather. So I'm not as concerned as far as that's concerned. I think you can see the direction he's trying to go with the coaches, the players, and all of that stuff. Do I think he's maybe going to have to make some changes as far as some of the coaches are concerned? Absolutely, he's going to. But generally, like I said before, this last game, the things that went wrong were generally an anomaly for Michigan. Right? Sometimes teams get got. Like think of Ohio State in 2017 and 2018 against Iowa and Purdue. Got absolutely shattered in those two games. And yet, obviously, no one was going to call for Urban in those games, but they looked terrible in those two games. Sometimes it just happens, especially on the road. And it wasn't even as bad as those games were at all. That's the funny thing. Jordan at Jordinsky. Why can we not use the forward pass effectively? Is it a coaching problem or a personnel problem? Now, I will say that I do want to see a better version of the passing game as it is, but it has been getting generally better. 207 yards in this game. And, you know, you want to see it better, especially with only 109 yards rushing. But I don't think that that's the massive problem. But again, USC's got a really good defense. And obviously the pass protection was not good in this game. Receivers were a lot better. I think they're figuring things out. You're starting to see the rhythm going with Donovan McCulley and Andrew Marsh. So I don't think that your assertion is accurate, though. Blund Mays, 76. How do they improve run fits quickly enough to affect Washington? I mean, again, this hasn't been a problem that they've had. This is where it's kind of like, everyone, we're all acting here, and I'm not gonna include myself because it's not saying I'm right here, but I'm still saying like everyone is acting like this is just a common theme. It's a common occurrence. Reading off rush yards by game: New Mexico 50, Oklahoma 138 with the running quarterback, 79 against Central Michigan, 43 against Nebraska, 75 by Wisconsin, 224 by USC. This is not a common theme. Could it become a common theme? It could. But generally, they've had good run fits. Stopping the run is what we know Michigan generally can do. It just didn't in this game. It just seemed like there was a lot of confusion going on throughout the entire defense for whatever reason. Finishing us out, Jacob Marcotte, Jay Breezy, 49088. What assistant coaches do you believe need to receive direct feedback from Moore, and what will we need to do in the offseason if improvements aren't not made? Well, you know the answer to the second part. Kudos to Ron Bellamy. I'm going to start there because Donovan McCulley and Andrew Marsh seem ready and raring to go, man. The rest of the group, we need to see something more. Grant Newsome, like his group has been the weakest link on this Michigan team for 2 years. Now, full changeover from the last year, a lot of inexperience, but I'm not seeing the type of improvement that I want to see from that group. So that's the biggest place is the offensive line. Again, defensively, I mean, I saw a lot of complaints about Brandon Hillman. He's had his moments bad and good. It's funny because like 2 weeks ago, or I guess not 2 weeks, but maybe like 3 weeks ago, this time last week, people loved Brandon Hillman. They were just kind of like, hey, you just gotta maybe lock down the penalties and stuff. And then he had a bad game, and I was like, I hate that bum. He needs to be out of there, all that kind of stuff. I'm not that. I just don't think it's worth overreacting to. We'll see how they do against Washington. If they're bad again against Washington, then we'll start having the conversation. But this is not what we have seen from Michigan and the defense in the last 2 years. The first time we've really seen it go this way. That's where I'm at. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.